the environment that lacrosse is operating in today, why didn't this happen 20 years ago?
Ooh, so I think there's three like mutually inclusive ways, but they're each distinct. So if you think about the history of lacrosse versus other equipment sports, call it football, hockey, golf, the difference between football, hockey, lacrosse, and golf is that football received public funding in the 60s and 70s to distribute equipment at the youth level. So when you and I and everyone played football, Pop Warner or Rec, we were given our helmet and pads. Those are two of the most expensive pieces of equipment to access. And if we look at the history of this country and the best, most beautiful games in the world, they have the lowest barrier to enter. Accessibility is across the board. It's why soccer is a global game. All you need is a ball. All right. It's why hoops is taken off too, because we have basketball courts in every neighborhood and all you need is a ball. In football, your equipment is largely donated or it's part of the public funding route. Lacrosse, hockey, golf missed the mark. And if you look at the wealth caste system and history in America and the socioeconomic gap, it just inherently limits access. So that's number one. And kudos to football in America and why it really took off, because lacrosse was being played in the Ivies exclusively, just like football was played in the Ivies exclusively, because they were both limited access sports. So that's if you look at it side by side. And then if you look at just kind of where lacrosse missed the mark versus those two other sports, hockey and golf, is hockey's more of a global game and had a really good professional institution in the NHL over the last 100 years that has allowed its growth to trickle down from the top down. But hockey really struggled in the 80s and 90s, and current ownership groups were buying franchises for pennies on the dollar not too long ago. And now with modern media and other advances, we've seen hockey really take off. And then golf, the same thing. You look at the professional body and the PGA Tour and stars like Jack Nicklaus and stuff. With lacrosse, the professional game has largely been non-existent. Players have been underwaged. It would be like football in the 60s if it never increased its players' wages. And then the last piece, I would say, around youth lacrosse emerging, absent of what we've done at the PLL, is I think that what we've seen with science and health concerns related to contact sports, and you can speak to this more than anyone, parents are just erring on the side of caution more, especially at the youth level. I think that's why we're seeing more flag football take off versus contact. And lacrosse has less contact than football, so I think it's seeing some spillover there. And then big markets like New England, where baseball is king. I played in Boston for the first 7 years of my professional career, and I was just hearing about it from local politicians to business owners to parents that, damn, my kids aren't playing baseball anymore. They want to play lacrosse. So there was just kind of this organic shift, and I think that has to do with a lot of the game getting recognition across new media like YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and such.
Yeah, my kid's school here, I live in Charlotte, and in North Carolina, lacrosse is huge. I mean, it is just blowing up. A lot of the best athletes in the springtime are not playing, at my kid's school, they're not playing baseball anymore. My kids play baseball, whatnot. But, as they start looking into middle school and saying, what's our team going to be like? Most of the boys that they play basketball with, they play football with, those boys are in the spring. They all go and play lacrosse. It's a really interesting shift. So I want to ask you, in Charlotte, we just got a major league soccer team, right? Yeah. So there's a huge push right now and an interest, both male and female, with young boys and girls, into the youth, access to soccer. And it's kind of fed off now the presence of having this professional franchise. So in your experience now creating the PLL and kind of navigating this from the youth scene all the way now to the professional scene, does the youth market drive the interest in the professional leagues? Does the existence of the professional leagues drive the interest of the youth? Like, do they feed each other? Like, what does your experience tell you there?
So my kind of professional cap as a league co-founder and president is that your primary focus is around sports fans 21 to 34, tends to skew male if you're a male sport. And so we can talk about it from football and men's lacrosse, which is what we run in the PLL. And some of that 21 to 34 audience played lacrosse. Some of them didn't. Some of them have family that did or friends that did. But in the end, sports is a form of entertainment. So we can see participation dwindle at the youth level in the NFL, but the NFL continue to skyrocket in value.
Right.
We're never having conversation around more octagons opening up for 12 and under to learn the UFC. And they
It's a good
continue to
point.
grow. So, but I think that the previous regime in Major League Lacrosse, they were so focused on getting lacrosse participants in stands. They built their business model around how many kids play lacrosse, convert to butts and seats, can convert to eyes on screen. That, from my perspective, is icing. It's a great opportunity, and you hope that participation is high. Adam Silver would say that much like a car salesman, the easiest way to get someone to watch the NBA is to have them dribble a basketball. You want that someone to drive a car, they're 60% more likely to buy it. And so I think that it is super valuable that we have growing participation, both boys and girls in lacrosse, that we're seeing more universities open up programs for men's and women's at the college level, that we're seeing more adult programs. And that is our core audience that we're focused on. But for the PLL to really go where we want it to go, we need to get the 180 million casual sports fans to tune in.